All right. So we are we've started our recording, and I just want to let people know that we are going to record this session. However, we are going to pause the recording when we have moments for discussion, and we will make it clear that we are doing so because our speaker today has sort of more of an interactive program for us. But I want to make sure that people have the opportunity to contribute and don't feel hampered by being recorded. Let me welcome everyone here and thank you for joining us. We seem to have amassed quite a following here for these legal well-being network meetings, which is very exciting. We've been running these for now almost 5 years, which is unbelievable. And I love that, I see people coming back to every meeting. There have been periods of times where we've had to take a break, but we've tried to continue to keep the momentum. And it's just wonderful that the word has gotten out, and that, so many people are really dedicated to improving the profession, and really care about the legal community. So really appreciate all of you being here and sharing your insights and sharing resources and ideas. And that's really what this meeting is all about, is really to try to exchange information and learn from each other, really again with this shared goal of fostering a healthier and more supportive environment for legal professionals. And so, welcome to everyone, whether you are in Massachusetts or outside of Massachusetts. Again, we're happy to have you here. Just so you know, here you can see on our slide, we have a link to our website where you registered, and you'll see the links to all the past programs and recordings and materials if you would like to view those. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Heidi Alexandra. I'm the executive director of the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court Standing Committee on Lawyer Wellbeing, which was formed in 2020, really as a result of the 2017 National Task Force report, and then the subsequent 2019 Steering Committee report from the Massachusetts SJC committee, which really guides our efforts in terms of implementing the recommendations and working to improve the profession. And so you can see here on this screen, this is sort of what captures our work. We've worked a lot on creating awareness and education, and bringing together leaders and creating more awareness and supports for lawyers and law students, judges, and also legal professionals, through mentorship programs and health insurance benefits and credits, loan repayment, a lot of work within the law schools as well. Working on research, and also making sure that resources and services such as Lawyers Concerned for Lawyers are readily accessible to the community when they're in need. So just a couple of things on my end. I start here, and I'm sorry for the downer, which is just tough all around, because I know everyone is sort of overwhelmed at this time. But I just want to make the point that, and I think everyone comes here, we all know what the profession is like right now. But there is a lot of data out there that is quite quite bleak, and we see this even in Massachusetts. And I just think, again, it really gives us a sense of the magnitude of the problem that we're confronted with in this profession, and need to bring more and more people. We need more and more people to buy in, and more people to work to make changes, because we've got 3/4 of our lawyers saying that they're burned out, and almost half of them saying that they have thought about leaving the profession altogether. So again, another reason why we focus on awareness. And so one of the big weeks in the year where we focus on education and awareness in the profession, and has grown to be quite big, is Wellbeing Week in Law, which is upcoming. It is the first full week in May, so May 5th through 9th. There are a number of programs and activities and resources available. If you or your organization, your workplace is planning something, let me know. We're happy to add it to our schedule. We have a listing of everything that's happening that week specific to Massachusetts, and then some of the national programs that are free programs. The first being a keynote event, which is going to be an event via Zoom, and it's from 5 to 7 p.m. It's actually with author Gloria Mark, who is a PhD and really has focused on psychology and studying the impact of digital media on people's lives. And so she really looks at multitasking, interruptions, your mood in terms of using digital devices. And so we're going to kind of dive into attention span and distraction and interruptions and strategies for maintaining health and productivity despite this sort of ever-changing landscape that we live in, and the sort of exponential use of technology and AI. Yes, Bernardo. This is all because of you. So thank you for the recommendation. And so this is a free program. We've got it on our website, and you can register. So we're going to follow it up with a panel. So we'll hear from Gloria for about an hour, and then the next hour we'll have a panel with folks from the legal community, kind of talking about all these challenges. Lawyers Concerned for Lawyers also has a number of events that week. Both Monday and Friday, so events with the Mindfulness in Law Society, and also some programming with the clinicians. Again, this is all on our website. It's on their website as well. And then finally, the Institute for Wellbeing in Law also has a number of free programs and resources and activities. So if you go onto their website, there's a lot of information that, if you're thinking, you run a committee at your firm or your organization and you want to send something out, they have a lot of materials that you can just blast out to people with different resources and activities and exercises that you can be doing that week. And then what we will do is we will be sending daily emails that you can pass along if you would like, that will provide some different resources and let you know what's going on each day. Just a couple of other updates in terms of resources from the committee is one in particular, and I see folks here that I'm looking forward to seeing this Friday at our second annual Law School Wellbeing Summit, which is out at Western New England Law from 9:15 until 1:30. This event is specifically for legal educators, for staff, for administrators, and people in the community. So it's not geared towards law students. It's really geared towards people who are thinking about how to best train law students. And I see at least one of our co-chairs, Philippa here, who has been instrumental in the planning of this summit. And then we have another co-chair, Beth Cohen, at Western New England, and then we have a full committee, and I see some folks here from our legal education subcommittee. But we do invite members of the community to come and join us. We'll be exploring topics of well-being in law school, strategies to help law students build resilience and better prepare to transition into practice. We'll also be talking about how to support faculty well-being, and we'll have some kind of working sessions as well. So please feel free to join us on that day out in Springfield. I also want to remind folks that we are continuing to collect, pursuant to SJC rule, demographics on the legal profession, and that this information is actually publicly accessible. So if you go to our website, you go to this link, you can actually look at the different demographics of the profession, and you can sort by different filter and sort by different criteria. You can actually look by bar association, you can look by county, and then we're going to start to see some trends over time. And so, one thing we know for sure is that our profession is predominantly solo and small firms in Massachusetts, about 2/3 solo and small firms. We also know that that the makeup of our profession is lacking diversity, although it appears to be becoming more diverse based on the trends. So take a look at that. And then the last thing, actually two other things, is that I'm not sure. I see there might be some people here who are mentors in our attorney mentoring program, but we offer this program to any lawyer who needs mentoring, whether they're a new lawyer or a lawyer in transition, or maybe a lawyer who's been through some discipline. And so we have a mentorship program, free mentorship program that allows people to connect with either multiple mentors or also connect with a mentor for a longer term experience. So if you're interested in that, take a look at that. And then this was a program we started with the Health Connector for Business. Just a reminder for folks, especially folks who are in solo and small firms, to access health insurance benefits. We know health insurance obviously is very important for both physical and mental health. Can be difficult, particularly for small firms to access. And so this is a benefit of Massachusetts Health Connector. There's some specific credits and benefits that you can receive, and they have a specific call line for lawyers. And then finally, we will be putting out a 5th annual report, but we do have reports every year on all the different programs and initiatives that we are working on, and we're always happy to collaborate with anyone. So I am going to stop talking now because I want us to all engage with our fantastic speaker here. So Justin Kelsey is someone I have known for a while now, and Justin and I had just recently connected about some programming that he's doing, and I thought it would be very interesting and very relevant for this group in it, particularly the topic that he is focused on. And so Justin he's a certified mediator. He's also a collaborative divorce attorney. He's been president of the Massachusetts Council of Family Mediators and the Massachusetts Collaborative Law Council, and also chair of the Mass Bar Association's Dispute Resolution Section Council. He currently teaches at New England Law Boston, and he's a partner in a firm that he founded, and some other projects that he's founded as well. He is on TikTok as that mediator, and he has a couple websites. And Justin and I over time have also talked a lot about the use of technology in the practice of law. But he has a really particular topic that, again, I think is really relevant in terms of acknowledging and exploring the impacts of our own experiences with trauma and loss and grief in order to actually bring our whole selves to work, and how that can benefit both ourselves and our ability to be advocates for our clients. Because and I will just say, based on a lot of the research that's out there, we do see a lot of vicarious and secondary trauma among lawyers, particularly in Massachusetts, and so it's definitely a real issue. So I think, especially right now, this is a great topic to engage in. So, Justin, I am going to turn things over to you, and I will stop sharing my screen. So thank you, Justin, for joining us.
Thanks, Heidi. Uh, I'm going to do a brief introduction of the presentation I'm going to do. It is intended to be interactive, and I think Heidi and Sybil are going to help us turn the recording off during the discussion parts. So we'll sort of note that when we're going into discussion, but you can feel free to ask questions throughout. If you want something not to be recorded, you can wait for the point where there's moments of discussion within the presentation. And this is adapted from a 3-hour workshop. So I'm just doing pieces of it, but I want to give credit to Betsy Ross, who's a therapist and collaborative coach and mediator, who helped create this presentation with me, and really did a lot more of some of the more in-depth research parts, which I'm not going to present because I'm not qualified to do that. But I want to share some of what she shared with me with you, in terms of how we process grief, the different types of grief, and how that can affect our work life. And specifically, we did this presentation for mediators. But in reaching out to Heidi and talking with Heidi and a few other people, I think it sort of applies to almost every profession, but especially to lawyers as well as mediators, where we're dealing with conflict as part of our work quite often. That it's a major component of the work. And sometimes what clients are asking us to do is deal with their conflict for them. And so conflict in our own lives, trauma in our own lives, can affect, in both negative and positive ways, how that comes into our work. So that's what this presentation is about. I'm going to do a little bit of basic information and talk a little bit about how this came up and why it was interesting to me to present with Betsy, and then open for discussion. And then there'll be 2 more slideshow parts that I share, and then we'll have 2 more sections for discussion. So hopefully that goes smoothly. Again, it's my first time taking this 3-hour presentation and making it 30 minutes or so. So we'll see how it goes. Right. Thank you all for being here, and hopefully for sharing this experience with me. So I'm going to share screen. So you can see what we call this, and I'm going to share a few slides. I did forward these slides to Heidi as well. So if people want the slideshow, I think she could forward that printout. Okay. So let me just adjust my screen here. I want to be able to see the chat and all of you while I also have my slides up. So as I said, this is a presentation that I had created with Betsy Roth. She couldn't be here today, so I'm going to do my best without her. I'm Justin Kelsey. My pronouns are he, him. Heidi already told you a lot of other stuff about me, so I won't do any more introductions about who I am. But my primary work, while I do all those other things, is mostly mediation. I do some collaborative representation and a whole bunch of other stuff in teaching. But most of my work is mediating and working with people who are divorcing. And sometimes that's pro forma work, getting people filled out with forms, but most of the time it's dealing with conflict and emotions and challenges. And the title of this presentation is The Things We Carry, Learning to Identify How We Bring Our Whole Self to Our Work, with a specific focus really on the parts of ourselves that can sometimes be hard to bring to work. And we bring all of ourselves to every interaction. That's good news. We bring our experience to our interactions. We bring our history and our wisdom and our success. And that experience can be very valuable to our clients. The bad news, or not so good news, is we bring all of ourselves to every interaction. And that means the hard parts too, and the things that sometimes make it hard for us to process what other people are going through with them, to keep ourselves separate from it so that we can be objective. Especially when I'm working as a mediator, I'm in a neutral role. It's particularly important for me not to bring my own biases into the room, to have the benefit of my experience without biases making me not feel neutral to the client. But even when we're doing advocacy work, it's important to be able to draw that line. And that is not always easy because we do bring all of ourselves to our work. Every loss, trauma, grief that we've been through, it affects us. There are different types of grief, and it's important to be thinking about that when we're talking about our own loss experiences, or the loss experiences of our clients. These are not mutually exclusive either. It doesn't mean that if you're experiencing one of these, that you're definitely not experiencing others. And some of these are overlapping by nature. I'm not going to read through the list because I'm not a read my slides kind of person, but you can see that there are different ones here. The one I do want to note that was sort of interesting to me when I was creating this presentation with Betsy that she taught me about was a type of grief called ambiguous loss grief. It can feel like a type of grief you're stuck in because the loss is not something that you know is completed and you can now grieve or not. And examples of that are divorce, where people are going to continue to have a co-parenting relationship, where they're losing a piece of the relationship, but not all of it. They may still have to have a relationship with somebody, and that can be hard to grieve and know which parts of your identity and loss you're grieving and which parts you have to learn to transition and live with. And when doing this presentation, one of our attendees brought up something that she had not realized working in her mediations that was affecting her, but really hit home with this idea of ambiguous loss grief, was dealing with a parent who had dementia, and sort of mourning the loss over and over and over. And so there are experiences that I think may be very, very different, but still have similarities. And so I could go through all of these, but personally, I found that one interesting. So that's why I'm sharing that. And I think a lot of my clients, when we think about one person, especially when I'm mediating, one person sort of being ready for the divorce and one maybe not being ready yet, we're often dealing with people in different stages of grief or experiencing different types of grief. And I had always thought about the different stages thing, but not necessarily different types. It's also important to recognize that grief doesn't occur just in our brain. We think of it as something we think about, but it takes place in the body as well. Our bodies have physical responses to trauma and loss. There's actually a study regarding the broken heart syndrome, actually multiple studies now, but people have an increased risk of mortality when they're bereaving a loss in the first 6 months. This is because our bodies actually physically react to loss as well. Again, some of these things, a lot of things I like to think of as, again, my training from being a mediator has pros and cons. The fact that our bodies are reacting can certainly have negative effects like mortality rates, risks, but also can be clues that we're experiencing something that we need to pay attention to. Feeling more tired, having other physical reactions can be a clue to there being an issue with our well-being that we need to address. That may be both something happening in our body and our mind. Other things that we know about grief, it's universal. While people grieve differently, all people grieve loss. It's universal across cultures, ethnicities, age groups, social standings. Again, people grieve in different ways and have different traditions, but everyone grieves. And how well we're able to perform in certain situations, it can affect how well we're able to perform in the future, and how well we can adapt, and how well we might learn to adapt in one situation of loss can help us in other situations as well. Specifically when, part of the point of this presentation is, as we as individuals experience these things, as professionals helping other people who are often going through their own loss, grief, conflict experience, our experience can be useful to them. That doesn't mean we need to share our individual experience, but one of the positives is we can acknowledge and recognize when people are going through things, even when it might be hard for them themselves. So that's a place I want to pause. We don't have to go off recording yet, because I want to share one thing about myself here and then invite people to discuss. One of the reasons I wanted to do this presentation with Betsy is noticing for myself how some of my own loss experiences have affected my work. I'm primarily a divorce mediator, and I have been divorced. And I think my work is different after having gone through a divorce than before. In some ways, I think I have to look out for biases in a different way and maybe more often, to look out for things that might be triggering for myself. On the other hand, I understand the loss experience that some of my clients are going through better than I did beforehand. The depth that it can take, how time affects it in ways that I could academically listen to and hear presentations on, but not fully understand. And I think I can normalize for clients in a more empathetic way now because of that. And so there are benefits to that. There are loss experiences also that we share often with our clients as experiencing in the same time. The pandemic is a good example of that. That while we all experienced different pieces of that, I was learning how to run an office and mediate while having two children attend school upstairs on Zoom half of the week while going through my divorce. And some of those experiences were things my clients were going through, trying to figure out how to make time for a divorce and work while not knowing whether they should wash all their groceries when they bring them home, and how to manage kids on school on Zoom, and the same types of things I was going through. And so pieces of that experience were shared experiences that we could go through with our clients and both understand the different needs they might have because of it, but also empathize. So it's, I think, really interesting to think about that, where there's overlap and similarities versus we're going through the same experience at the same time. But regardless, it can be, I think, particularly helpful when helping clients get through conflict or be able to see the way in which conflict is affecting them. So I'm going to pause there, and maybe this is a good time to pause the. So there are times when one of the things that people are doing in grief, and part of the grief cycle, is denial or avoiding it. But it doesn't go away. The only way to deal with grief and loss is to actually deal with it. And avoiding it can take longer. The effect of long-term stress from grief on both the body and mind are reversible. That people can heal from this. That doesn't mean in certain losses it's ever forgotten, but the types of acute stress effects that we're talking about, the effects on the body, those types of things are reversible over time. People deal with the trauma and the grief. And that's an important thing to know for clients, that at one moment may not be able to process information and another might, or for ourselves going through something that may make it hard to do a particular type of work one day, but not the next. And some of the things that we can do, Stephanie already mentioned, got ahead of me here a little bit on the importance of labeling, that we, using our words, can discharge the intensity of emotions. To name an emotion in a conversation. This is one of the active listening techniques that we teach mediators. We don't just reframe facts for people, we reflect emotions in the room. And naming something can help it be there, but be manageable. It can also be true for ourselves, that if I am finding something that a client is sharing triggering for myself, and noticing that, and not wanting to not seem neutral or have a bias, naming what's going on for them can be a very powerful way of taking it off of myself as well. And it can lead to productive conversations. One of the things I teach my students when we talk about active listening is, you can also get it wrong sometimes. If you name something, you could be incorrect. That's a chance for clients to correct us. And that can also be a learning experience. And if I was making the wrong assumption about what they're going through, it's actually better for me to know that. So it gives us the chance to have a conversation, which can be really important. In terms of managing our work when going through things, we need to manage our schedule appropriately. If I'm having a more acute situation, I've just had a loss, going through my own loss, I may need to have less conflict meetings for a period of time. Now, some of us have more control over this than others, but I think oftentimes solo and small firm practitioners tend to think about things are more stressful. I need to fill that time with productive work and make money right now for, when I'm dealing with these other things on my off days. But if we run ourselves down, we're not effectively dealing with what we have to go through, and we're not the best that we can be for our clients. And we can do that by managing our calendars more effectively. We can manage our own environment, tune into what's going on for ourselves. Those same things I said about looking out for clients having physical reactions, we can pay attention to our own. I know other programs on mindfulness do a lot of discussion around this, paying attention to your own body and things that you're feeling as opposed to what's going on with your mind and your capacity. But I often tell clients it's okay to reschedule a meeting if they don't feel ready to deal with these topics today. I'm not as good about telling myself that. And it's one of those things I think I need to work on. I think many of us probably do. But if we're not all we can be for our clients, it might be better to reschedule a meeting than to be in a meeting we're not really able to. I'm going to come back to some slides on the self-care part, so I'm going to skip that for the moment, but that's where I'm headed. And again, this is part of that. What's hard often for type A competitive personalities, people who are often lawyers, is being honest with ourselves when we don't have that capacity today to pay attention. That the things we might be going through can disrupt our own memory, decision making. It's how people make mistakes. So my next two slides are about self-care, but I want to pause again just to see a couple of you got to have care for ourselves. So self-care, obviously a way to alleviate stress, easy to recommend for our clients, sometimes hard to make sure we're doing for ourselves. If you're not doing these things, you're more likely to experience the negative impacts on your mind and body from grief and loss, and for them to last longer. This is not an exhaustive list, but a list of things that you can do to replenish. And again, I'm not a read through my slides kind of person, so hopefully you're on a screen that's big enough you can see them. But I'll call out one of the things I've been trying. Betsy named this frequent 5-minute vacations, which trying to think more about when I have space in between meetings and phone calls to not just sit at my desk and answer emails with all of my free time, but to take intentional 15 or 30-minute breaks where if I'm eating, I'm not also trying to work while I'm eating, and either turn my computer off or turn all my email down and just like watch last night's episode of The Daily Show or something that is completely different from work, may not be not stressful, but completely different from my work. And think of it as a mini vacation in that middle of the day. Some of us have just learned to work straight through and never take breaks. And it's really, I'm finding not helpful for me. So I'm trying to be better about it. So one of the things I'm trying to be much better about on this list. What works for you may not be on here. And when you're going through a particular loss event or grieving something that is different than something you've been through before, you may need to revisit this and say, what have I not tried before that I'm going to try now? Changing self-care, trying new things, adding self-care, when you're going through something specific can be a way of making sure you're taking care of yourself. And I got to say, I've gone to a lot of wellness events where I look at lists like this and I go, oh, I should definitely be doing more of this. And then I go back to my work day. So what I'm going to ask for like the last few minutes that we have together, feel free to ask me any questions or share any thoughts you want to. But if you don't have specific things that you're already thinking of, then look through this list and think about what is the one thing right now or two things right now that maybe you want to add, and try to actually think about a plan for when you would do that. And if anyone wants to share their thoughts or something on or off this list that has worked for them, we'd love to hear it.